Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the Energy Access Relief Fund Help Desk workshop on improving the implementation of e-waste management. We look forward to an engaging and informative session as we discuss how to develop and progress strategies for improving e-waste management. Before we begin, I would like to go over a few house rules for your convenience. One, today's session is being recorded, and that recording will be available on our YouTube channel after the event. Two, all attendees are currently muted to allow for a smooth flow of the presentations. However, during the question and answer sessions or the breakout sessions that we might have, we will unmute and then we'll be able to share. Also, if you have any questions for the presenters, please feel free to use the chat feature or send me a direct message and I'll pass on your question to them. And then we also encourage you to be open and share information and also to use real life examples from your companies instead of generalizing. That way, the panelists will be able to give you targeted answers to your questions. We also request that you respect the diversity of opinions and experiences that will be expressed throughout the webinar. And finally, a certificate of participation will be issued to all the attendees who are part of this workshop. Lastly, our trainer for today is Rebecca Rhodes. Rebecca leads the circularity program at Google. We also should have with us John Abwell, who will be joining us shortly. But before we hear from Rebecca, I'll hand over to my colleague, Monica Omboy. Monica is a senior associate at CLASP to give her opening remarks. Monica, if you can hear me, welcome.
Thank you, Dennis. Hello, everyone, and welcome again. My name is Monica Wamboi, and I work with CLASP of our Nairobi office, and CLASP is the administrator of the e-waste ESMS help desk. This is the fourth workshop that we are having under the help desk. And we welcome you to watch other workshops or the recording of the other workshops on our resource portal, which I think Dennis will just post now. On the link, you can access not only the recording of the webinars that we've held, but as well as other resources available on that portal. So the help desk was created with funding from the World Bank to support applicants and borrowers of the Energy Access Relief Fund, which is being managed by CIMA. So the help desk it focuses on several topics. It focuses on e-waste management. It focuses on the Google Consumer Protection Code. It focuses on the foundational aspects of development and implementation and improvement of ESMS, as well as stakeholder and grievance mechanisms, thinking about labor and working conditions, as well as sustainable supply chains. And so this workshop is one of the strategies that we are implementing as the help desk to build the capacity of borrowers of the fund. However, we also have we provide one-on-one consultations with companies, and we invite you to reach out to us on the email address that you can just see right now on the screen, EARF@CLASP.NGO. So on any of the topics that I've just mentioned that you feel the organization will require additional support on. So for today's workshop, we had one other workshop a couple of weeks ago where Rebecca basically gave us an introduction to e-waste. It was an e-waste 101 session where we talked more about e-waste. What is e-waste? How does it look like for organizations? And so for today's workshop, we will basically get a chance to then understand what is the footprint of our organizations, e-waste footprint for organizations, and what tools are available for carrying out this kind of assessment. And in addition to that, we will also learn what why is it important to then carry out training and awareness raising, and then how, if this is important, how then can that be done? And so I want to encourage you again to engage as much as possible in this workshop, to ask any questions that you may have, and where possible to also share your experiences as an organization on any of the topics that will come up. And we hope and really hope that this session will be worthwhile in building your organization's thinking around e-waste. And so at this point, I'll go ahead to welcome Rebecca. Welcome.
Thanks, Monica, and thanks, Dennis. Yeah, just as Monica said, so I think just really want to make sure this session is as useful as possible. So if you have any questions throughout, just feel free to unmute yourself and ask the questions, or pop them in the chat box as well. All right, so last time we had a look at just the basics of e-waste management and how that applies to the off-grid solar sector. And today I want to dig a little bit deeper into the actual kind of practical actions that companies can take to improve their e-waste management. So I think we're going to start just by a very quick poll. So I understand e-waste management and how it affects my business, just to see where we're at. So that's yes, no, not sure. And again, what exactly is e-waste if you really have no idea. And whilst we're waiting, so I think I'll just kind of give a bit of a narrative of this picture here on the right hand side. So this is from a pilot project that was undertaken in Zambia by Sunny Money, and they implemented a take back scheme to collect broken products from their customers. And this is a product that was returned by this customer after it had broken, and they had sort of community gatherings to encourage their customers to return products as well. So quite a nice pilot, and you can read more about that in the Global Leap Solar E-Waste Challenge lessons report. All right,
so the results are in. We have 67% saying yes, that is the first option, and then 33% saying no.
Okay, that's good. Halfway there-ish. So yeah, hopefully by the end of this, we'll kind of bump that up. And again, do have a look at the eWaste 101 session if you've not yet seen that. So I'll quickly do a recap on what we went through last time, and then go into detail on where to start, basically from assessing your e-waste footprint and putting the first kind of plans into place. And then some tips for training your staff, consumer awareness raising, and implementation in businesses as well. And then we'll have time, hopefully, for a discussion and Q&A in case there's any remaining questions that are unanswered. So first of all, a recap. So what did we learn last time? So globally, e-waste has grown by 21% in 5 years, and it's roughly around growing at around 54 million metric tons each year. So this is mainly due to electronics having high consumption rates, short life cycles, and limited options for repair. And this is something that we want to change in the off-grid solar sector. And the value of all of this e-waste is around $57 billion. And so if we can, bring all of that waste back into the system, back into the value chains, then we're actually, making sure that we have circular models and utilizing the raw materials as much as possible. So within off-grid solar, the sources of e-waste are multiple. They can come from repair and returns, write-off and repossessions, those that are broken in transit, and through customer take-back schemes. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Barriers for off-grid solar companies, which makes this a particularly difficult area of operations, include a lack of consumer awareness, the expense of managing e-waste, especially when we're trying to keep the cost of products as low as possible. The lack of recycling infrastructure in many of our markets, difficulty in accessing spare parts, and then the fact that legislation across the markets in which we operate is often nascent or non-existent as well. So no real level playing field for companies to operate on. However, that being said, companies can get benefits and from managing e-waste and taking action. It demonstrates responsibility through environmental and consumer protection, which can help mitigate your brand and PR risk. Where government regulation does apply, it obviously means that you will be in compliant with that. It meets investor interests, and this is evident by the requirement from the EARF funds. And then it can also be a tool to improve customer retention and kind of bring new and follow-on business as well. So from the Energy Access Relief Fund, within the ESMS, there are several requirements for companies. The first is that the products meet accepted quality standards. So this is the Verisol standard. That any national laws are complied with. That companies have the minimum of safe management of any hazardous waste. So that really means knowing where the hazards are within your waste and doing that risk analysis. The implementation of an e-waste management plan. And finally, consumer awareness as well. So this is what I'm going to focus on today, is really these kind of three elements, which have some really easy and simple steps that can be taken. So a good place to start is to look at understanding your e-waste footprint. Gogler developed an assessment framework to help companies do this, to look at where they are today, and then to take that information and build a roadmap or a management plan that's really realistic and practical for their own company context. So the links here, and obviously I think this will be sent out later, so you'll be able to access this. So you can see that within the assessment framework, there's several indicators under different categories. There's an area for you to write how or how well you meet the indicator. So either not met, somewhat met, or fully met. And then some comments that you can add. And we've also added some recommendations on what can be done. Now, it's important to note that this framework has been developed for the whole off-grid solar sector. So to achieve all of this and every indicator in here, you know, this is really something that would be more for a multinational, very large company with a lot of resources. So don't expect that you're going to go into here and be able to tick everything off from day one. It's just not the case. But it just gives an idea of what can be done, what you can prioritize, and where you are starting from. So I'll go into a couple of the indicators. So I've just kind of taken the top couple from each section here. So for instance, the e-waste management policy, simply, do you have one in place? And has it been signed off by management and adopted company-wide? So this is important because when we implement a policy, we need to make sure that it is known across the business as well. So not just kind of whoever's written it, signed it off and stored it away. When it comes to e-waste activities and operations, a couple of the indicators there are that we know what the process flow charts are, we know how e-waste flows within the company, and that roles and responsibilities are clearly defined. With consumer awareness raising, an example is that you inform your consumers or end users, if you're a manufacturer, on how to take care of the product, what the warranty period is, and how it can be disposed of at its end of life. Where there are recycling providers in a country of operations, you have identified one and you have a contract and partnership in place. And then finally, on the data collection and monitoring, so how are you measuring this? Do you collect records on e-waste management? And how frequently do you have a kind of set process for that? So that's the assessment matrix. So I think, take this, have a look through it, and really just understand where is your company today. And then from that, you'll be able to develop a roadmap. And this really is your action plan to take you to where you want to get to with regards to e-waste management. And this will be different for every company, depending on the size, the available capacity and resources, and the country of operations. So whether or not there's regulations, there's recycling facilities and such like. So make sure that you fit your roadmap to your country context and company context. It's important to assign an overall owner, but also for each activity and action has its own responsible person as well. Review the action plan periodically. So this might be every 6 months, every 12 months, and make sure that it's maintained and updated as things mature. Also, at the same time, I think as you review the action plan is a good time to monitor the external factors. So whether the regulations have changed or development of national facilities or new recycling centres have come into play, for example. And also consider the trigger points within your kind of e-waste journey. So this might be, if you're monitoring the amount of e-waste that you have in storage, at some point you're going to reach a critical mass. When you want to kind of really deal with that, you want to have a recycler on board and make sure that you are sending the e-waste away for recycling as early as you can. Obviously, there's limitations there as well with economies of scale. So you want to reach a certain volume before to get a better price from recyclers, but you don't want to store it indefinitely. And then I think from there, you kind of look to develop your policy. So how does your company approach and apply e-waste management? So we also have a kind of template for this, but I think, again, it really needs to be tailored and factored to each company. But within that, the content of that policy should really kind of cover what is your company's mission and approach to e-waste management. Do you want to collect everything? Do you target 10%? What's realistic and where do you want to be? Also consider your role within the e-waste value chain. So if you're a manufacturer, for instance, and you don't have a direct relationship with the end user, there is still a role that you can play in the e-waste management. So you can make sure that your partner distribution companies have certain e-waste management practices in place to make sure that your products are not the ones that are being poorly managed once they reach end of life. You can make sure that your product user manual has the right information in related to disposal. And then if you're a distributor, you obviously have a bit more of a role to play in the consumer awareness, take back, kind of the warranty management and such like. So just think about where you can actually impact that. Also consider the local regulatory environment, assign the roles and responsibilities within the company, so that everybody knows, you know, who's responsible for what. And then think about the financial planning for e-waste management. So often companies will not think about e-waste until they already have too much, and then have to find a recycler and deal with it. But actually, if we plan up front, we can ensure that we have in sort of, you know, future year financial plans, we know how much e-waste we are expecting, and we kind of can assign a cost to that. Also think about the KPIs. What do you want to measure and how will you monitor your progress? The consumer and partner engagement plans, and as well the processes and procedures. So this might be things like reverse logistics, how the e-waste flows through your warehouse facilities and such like. And then finally, when it comes to actually monitoring and measuring how you are improving and how e-waste is being managed within the company, we have some suggested KPIs. Again, you'll see the link here. But again, all of the list here is kind of for a very advanced multinational company, and I don't think you know, a small SME would be expected, or it would be sensible to kind of monitor and measure everything in this list. So, but it's a good place to start, and it's a good place for each of you to go and review it and kind of make the decisions about what you want to measure as a company, what will be helpful to you, and how you want to apply that within your governance structures. I suggest as kind of 4 basic KPIs, however, from the list, these 4. So the first of all is estimating the product failure lag. So how long do you think each product will be in use for? And this will kind of become more and more accurate as time goes on, and you actually start to receive repairs and in warranty claims, for example. Then we come to the e-waste. So the e-waste generated. So this would be your sales volume, preferably in kilograms, from that period minus the failure lag. So if I put 10 kilograms of products on the market today with an expected lifespan of 5 years, in 5 years from now, I can expect that I will have 10 kilograms of e-waste generated. And then from that, we look at the e-waste collected. So we see, again, in kilograms, how much is collected, stored, and recycled. And we can look at this again as a % of e-waste generated to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. And then finally, I would also come to the number of employees trained on e-waste management, because I think building that capacity within the business is an important place to begin. So just to kind of bring back to what I shared last time, just to recap on some of the tools that are available. So we have the Goggle tools, but also there's lots more, and all of them are linked to on the help desk resource portal as well. So I will take a quick breather, and before we move on, just kind of pause to see if there's any questions on any of that.
Maybe a comment, Rebecca. So one of the recommendations that you gave was that the company should also monitor what is happening externally, so in terms of regulations. And I guess my addition to that could also be, apart from monitoring what is happening, is also to see if there's an opportunity for you to participate in what is happening, especially in the regulatory landscape. If you can engage with the different agencies or come together with other organizations, similar organizations, in just also pushing that regulation. Maybe, for example, if the regulation is still in draft, is it possible to come together and support the relevant government agency to get it to a place where it's actually adopted? So yeah, apart from monitoring, that you can be an active participator in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I think that, if you have a relationship with the National Renewable Energy Association in your markets as well, that's always a good place to start, and make sure, that they kind of have this on their agenda as well. All right, so I will get into now a little bit more of the how do we take all of that planning and that kind of management stuff into practice, and what do we need to do with regards to staff, consumers, and kind of logistics side of things. Yeah, so I'm going to start talking about building your internal capacity, and this is largely related to training. Quite simply, e-waste is a new topic for many people, and so it's really important that, as you develop your internal capacity, you'll also kind of pass that knowledge on to your staff and make sure that the staff are also aware. Here's an example from We2 in Kenya, and they were also a awardee of the Global Leap Solar E-Waste Challenge, and they implemented some training as part of their project. Initially, the staff were not enthusiastic about e-waste management, but We2 supported many of them to go and receive kind of formal training on the subject. And then, after the training, they noticed that actually many of those staff were really interested in the subject and really keen to get involved in the e-waste project. The reason they were reluctant before was that they just didn't know very much about it. So I think it's important to take a look at your organization, where your roles and responsibilities for e-waste lie, and then design a kind of training needs analysis so that you know who needs to be trained on what. Again, this is quite a detailed example, but I think as the very minimum, it's really good to train all your staff as part of your onboarding on just an introduction to e-waste, what it is and why does it matter to your organization. And by doing this, you kind of ensure that all of your staff have a basic level of understanding, and then you can really do some more targeted training on the staff members that are directly involved with the e-waste management process. When it comes to the kind of operational, logistical side of things, I also shared this in the last webinar, but there's loads of resources available for you to help you understand, what are the requirements to safely store a used lithium battery, a used lead acid battery, what kind of risk management measures need to be in place. Fundamentally, though, this can be summarized into providing PPE for staff, so making sure that protective gloves and glasses are available for staff who are, for instance, handling dead lead acid batteries. In many cases, the chemicals can leach out and can burn if not, if no PPE is being worn. But then on top of that, ensure that staff are trained about these aspects, so trained about the health, environmental and safety aspects of the used electrical equipment that they're dealing with. And so that by doing that, they actually wear the PPE that they've been provided with. When it comes to kind of storage and handling, make sure there's a dedicated storage space for end-of-life equipment and that proper facilities are in place. Some of this is really kind of cheap and easy to do. For instance, with dead lead acid lithium cells, you can see this little picture here is essentially just a container filled with sand to ensure that fires don't break out and spread. And again, just really understand what the risks are of different components that you have within your e-waste inventory. And then finally, I will come on to the consumer awareness raising side of things. So again, just using some examples here from the Global Leap Solar E-Waste Challenge. All of those projects implemented some level of consumer awareness raising. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a requirement of the Energy Excess Relief Fund. Very simple requirement with minimal aspects such as, adding into the user manual disposal instructions and making sure that customers are informed on installation and at the end of their warranty. But some other things that you can kind of add on to that. So we see here a sort of communications campaign on Twitter, so that the sort of followers can see that and get some general information. And a couple of posters. So We Collect, this is again We2's project. So kind of highlighting the different types of e-waste that they were collecting. And also an example from D-Light here. So they had a customer retention offer. If an old solar product was not working, customers were able to return it and receive a discount off of a new solar lantern, which has benefits for the customer because they continue to get a good quality product, but also benefits to D-Light because they retain that customer for future business. Another thing just to highlight, so every year there's an International E-Waste Day, and this is a good kind of point to leverage a bit of communications and a bit of awareness raising as well amongst your networks. So some basic steps for consumer awareness. So again, these are quite clearly outlined in the ESMS. So I think it's easy to follow those steps. But in doing so, I think it's really important to kind of take a look at your existing communication channels and identify sort of key points in the customer journey where messaging can make the most impact. One thing that I think it's important to consider is that we don't want to put customers off. We don't want them to think that, well, products are just going to break. So there's still a, we're sharing the quality and the longevity of the products, but also being honest about, eventually when it does break down, this is the responsible way to dispose of it, to repair it, or to return it to the company. Use simple language. So you saw in the D-Light poster here, so is your solar product old and not working? So it's very simple, easy to understand. And it's much better to use language like that rather than e-waste or end of life or more sort of technical and specific language. Just makes it more easily understood by your consumers. Another tip is to give your agents and call center staff, if you have them, a script so that they can easily read and recall what the disposal instructions are and make sure that every customer is getting the same information. And then finally, using this communication as a way to reconnect with your customers. So if a product lasts 5 years, 5 years down the line, it's a good opportunity to try and re-engage and get some follow-on business. You might want to kind of anticipate that they might want to replace, repair, or upgrade, and share, what you can offer and what your new products may be. Any questions on training, consumer awareness, or safe handling and storage?
Online, you can unmute and then just ask a question. Alternatively, you can post it in the chat. So feel free.
Okay, if there's no questions, I will go on to my final slide. So when we talk about e-waste management, we are really managing the problem, but there is a way to also kind of go a little bit further and introduce more circularity into your processes as well. This isn't part of the requirements for funding, but I think, you know, once you're integrating e-waste management processes into your operations, it's a really good time to start looking at what else you can do as well. So when it comes to consumers, you can consider kind of take back, proactive take back schemes and incentivization schemes. So this is kind of looking at how do you encourage them to return a broken product rather than just make them aware that it's an option. You can consider extended warranties to sort of extend the lifespan of products and making sure that when they are broken, they're properly repaired or collected by the company yourselves. And then you can implement much kind of more general communication campaigns specifically focused on e-waste management. When it comes to partnerships, where facilities exist, it's important to kind of formalize that partnership with a recycler to make sure that you're getting the right confirmation that your waste has been properly disposed of. And there are also tools out there that can help you audit them annually and ensure that, you know, they are meeting the required environmental standards as well. And where they exist, you can also join a producer responsibility organization, which will take some of the kind of compliance and responsibilities off of you and kind of helps to reach efficiency and economies of scale with other companies as well. This is quite a new thing, one just being established in Kenya, but also I think, you know, we will start to see more of these organizations come online in the coming years as well. And then finally, if you are a manufacturer, you know, really kind of consider what happens at end of life within your design process. So how can you use more recycled materials, recycled plastics, for instance, and make sure that, you know, all of the materials are easy to recycle by the kinds of recycling facilities that are available in the typical markets. And then on top of that, just really consider access to the product for repairability. How easy is it to replace a single component that may have broken, for example? Okay. So that is just a very quick summary of some circularity considerations as well. So yeah, Dennis, if you want to again just hand over for any questions and also kind of just any comments from you as a manufacturer or a distributor.
Okay, so I don't know if does anyone have a question, comments that they would like to make on the presentation that has been done, a reaction. So I'll go around and give everyone an opportunity to speak since we are not so many on the call. I'll start with Akim Chemutai. Please unmute yourself and share. You could give a reaction, ask a question.
Yes, sorry, I was just coming from a noisy place. But other than that, no, I'm just, I do just have a comment, and I have worked with a few aspects of what Rebecca has presented, such as the take back and collection scheme in Delight, and also testing out the e-waste toolkit in Delight and creating a policy for Delight. But other than that, I would just want to say that it's important to look at your company culture, because when we implemented the toolkit in Delight, we realized that in some places we may have to do bottom-top approach, and in other places we may have to do top-bottom approach. So we did a mix of it, and also depending on your company, or even if you're a distributor, manufacturer, or retail, just look at whether what would work for you. Is training capacity the first step you should take? Is policy the first step you should take? Or just setting up collection schemes the first step you should take? So I would say just do an assessment of your company culture and create some form of roadmap that would work for you and would ease it, because whatever, it's important to engage with the stakeholders of your company, especially the decision makers, and also make a business case out of it so that the decision makers can see the potential. So for Delight, we also did a business case showcasing that maybe in the future, refurbishment can be also another source of income to the company. That's all I have to say, but thank you so much. And yes, back to you.
Those are great insights. Before I let you go, King, I have a question on something that Rebecca touched on, the issue of preparing a call script and giving that to the representatives who will be interacting with the customers and stakeholders. So from the projects that you handle, how did you set up the system of, let me say, customer care or interaction between the customers and the company? Could you briefly say something about that?
Yes. So the first step was definitely still to do an assessment of how the customers interact in each different medium or communication pathway. So, for example, we realized Delight, most of the customers liked the posters or were mostly interacted with radio. So radio is one of the things that really brought us a lot of customers. Also depending on the region where we set up this project. But other than the call center, we realized the call center mainly interact in troubleshooting purposes. So we did a pitch to the call center team and showcased that e-waste support can also be part of troubleshooting support, because troubleshooting support also ensures that it's indirectly reduces e-waste volumes and all. And also in the script, we made it sound very simple, like if the customer, you've taken them through all the steps of troubleshooting and they're still having problems with their product, we communicated that to go to the nearest sale agent or center, or maybe a service center, so that we can collect that as e-waste, because in most cases, the call center agent can recognize that maybe probably the product is no longer working. But yeah, that would also drum up business for after sale, because some repairs do have to be paid, are not free, especially if they're out of warranty.
Okay, all right.
So they have to, it can also drum up business for after sales. Yeah.
Okay, great insight. I think what you're saying aligns very well with the presentation, and I like that there are specific insights on an actual project, Delight, an actual company. So the points are very valid. So next, I'll go to Chiara. I don't know if Chiara, you're able to hear me. You could ask a question or give a reaction. But before you do, please, I'll request that you introduce yourself for the benefit of everyone else on the call. So
yes, sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So my name is Chiara, and I work as an office manager for Inclusive Energy, which is a company which develops remote monitoring systems for the off-grid. So we work with cloud solar and biogas too. So we have an office in London, one in Edinburgh, and one in India, which is also the place where we manufacture the products. So you see how we need to. I think that there are 2 points that I find quite relevant here. So one is transparency in the policies, and of course in the culture, which was the previous point. And And the other one is how true is that following e-waste, a good e-waste management and a good ESG can actually make your brand more attractive and enticing for people, maybe, you know, who want to invest in your company. And so, yeah, I think these are the 2 points that I think we really need to develop, and you know, just put at the center of our focus, or at least my focus for inclusive energy in this moment.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good point, Karen. Yeah, just to reiterate, I think your product type is a very kind of small component in a bigger system that your distributors use, but actually thinking about, you know, how easy is it to repair if one of the component breaks, or and then.
So we just made a video. So we just shoot a video where we explain to people how to change a chip inside the smart biogas, and it really takes something like 2 minutes or less. So you actually don't need to buy a new meter. You just change the parts where you can, and you know, we have to explain to people how to do it. That's why we shoot the video, and we plan to do maybe more.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of recognizing that is part of e-waste management, and so there's this role to kind of recognize that and to make sure, you know, share that with distributors as well, and include, you know, aspects of that. That is your part of what you do to kind of reduce and manage e-waste along the whole value chain. So I think, yeah, really great that that's in place.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chiara. I've been saying Chiara, so I apologize for this.
Don't worry, it's the same.
All right, so we have a question from Kezia in the comments. I don't know if you've seen that, Rebecca. So maybe you could give a reaction or a response to that.
Yeah, so I guess this is focused on startups with a small e-waste footprint. How does one start off the process of integrating e-waste recycling? So is a policy needed before the e-waste is kind of sent for recycling? Is the question, as I understand it. I think, yes, they can very much happen concurrently. I think it's, if you have enough e-waste to be sent for recycling, then, you know, it's fine to do that, as long as you kind of assured that the recycling partner is meeting, you know, environmental standards. But actually, it's also good to kind of put that policy in place and management plan in place as early as possible, just so that you kind of are forecasting these things as well, and making sure that you have the right culture, the right processes, and such like in place. And again, I think with e-waste recycling, it is a cost for companies, and often with bigger volumes, there's you will get a cheaper kind of price for recycling, and so there's also, you know, no harm in kind of keeping it and storing it until you have a critical mass where you can recycle at an effective price. Does that answer your question?
Okay, great. It does. Okay, all right. So next I'll go to Joyce. Joyce, if you can hear me, please unmute, and you can either react to the presentation that has been made, comment on your experience, or ask a question.
Hi, Dennis. Can you come again? Sorry.
Sorry, it's okay. So we're doing a discussion round where we are inviting all the participants to either ask a question or react to the presentation that has been made, or comment.
Okay.
Yeah, something from their own experience.
Okay. So I'm Joyce Kwese, and I'm working with Green Impact Technologies as a business development manager. So with Green Impact Technologies, we extract a number of technologies, like solar home systems, solar water pumps, biogas. Yeah. So I can say as a Green Impact Technologies, we have just started to do with the e-waste management because of the EARF SEMA debt financing. So we can say we have not, we don't have much like experience, like expertise on that. But with this training, in terms of the consumer, on how we can communicate, to the consumers, how can we raise the awareness to the consumers. I think from this training, it depends on the target customers. Because, for instance, from the products that we distribute, there are different target customers, but mostly they are people in the rural communities. So under solar home systems, we have sales agents. So I think with this training, through the sales agents, if they are more trained on e-waste management, obviously that means through word of mouth, or as they are selling those products, they will be able to tell the consumers, the end users of those products, on how they can manage if the products are not in use.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you also touch on an important point that Rebecca had made about building capacity within the organizations.
Yes.
Regarding e-waste management. So thank you for that comment. And then I'll invite back Kezia. I know that you already asked a question, but we'd like to, at this point, maybe just know your affiliation. So just introduce yourself, and you can either comment, and if there's no comment or question, then we'll invite someone else. Kezia, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a way to hear me, but I'll then go to Jennifer. So Jennifer, I know that you've just joined, and sorry for putting you on the spot, but we are doing a discussion round where participants are reacting to the presentation that has been made, or asking a question regarding implementation of e-waste strategies within their organizations. So I don't know if you're able to unmute and share briefly.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dennis. I'm not sure that I can ask a question about the presentation because, as you mentioned, I only recently joined. But yeah, what was this? Was there a second part of your question?
So you could introduce yourself so that for the benefit of the people on the call, to maybe give a background of the significance of this discussion for your organization, improving e-waste management in the context of your organization.
Sure. My name, yes, Jennifer Schmidt. I work with Bright Life Uganda and supporting them in development of policies. So I work out of the Washington office, but I occasionally travel to Uganda to work with the local team. In that scope, I've worked with them to develop an e-waste policy, and we intend for this to begin, implementation basically immediately. One of those things I did hear, the discussion of sort of recycling parts. That's definitely part of our strategy. And yeah, and the conversation around how customer call centers kind of support the overarching sort of customer journey and identifying problems and whatnot, and using scripts was interesting and something that we do as well. yeah, I don't, the significance of this is very significant. You know, we certainly, this is part of our overarching strategy to, you know, reduce carbon footprint and helping to, you know, figure out a good solution. The most important impact is in our programs are the batteries of our products. So finding a solution for that is a top priority for us. So yeah, we'd like to begin a move towards this recycling program that we have envisioned. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Yes, yes. Thank you, and thank you for those insights. So for your benefit, we'll also circulate the presentation, the slides, just so that you're able to reference what was previously covered. But thank you for making time to attend the workshop. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, then I think we have Ivana. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'll just give Ivana 2 minutes and then we get back to the rest of the presentation.
Okay, good morning to everyone. I'm Ivana Ngome. I'm working with UPOA and I'm responsible of method and ESMS management. So in our business, our enterprise, we are doing a B2C, we are a B2C companies. We distribute small solar grill, a small solar system to house, and we are trying to extend our activities to something little big. So we have to manage our waste, our e-waste. We first begin by awareness and sensibilization to our customers. Doing a contact, we used to call them and we send them usually some messages once a month. Okay. We send messages once a month, and we this year we did a collect from some our customers who have their kids at the end of their life. Another thing that we are doing now is as I saw in the presentation, we add some awareness, some flyers to sensibilize our customers to the fact that once the kit has been stop working, once the kit is, how I can say it, can be considered as waste. They don't have to dispose it by themselves, but to contact us, and we will have to collect them kit at end of life to make the final disposal by our side. So and even inside we have to we doing some sensibilization to our team. Even each new employees that we get did sensibilization information of waste, e-waste, what we are used to do for manage our e-waste. So this is all for me. I hope that will be enough.
Yeah. Thank you, Ivana. Thank you for sharing. So at this point, I'll hand over back to Rebecca to continue with the rest of the presentation. Thank you, everyone, for contributing.
Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, so I just wanted to finish with another quick poll. So just kind of looking at the statement, there are some simple steps that I or we as a business can take to improve e-waste management. Whether you agree, whether you kind of disagree because you're already doing as much as you can, or if you're not sure and need more help.
Okay, so we have 100% of the participants saying that they agree. So I'll just end the poll and then share the results.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, that's good to hear from everyone. And I think, you know, where even that, if you do need help, I will switch over. and plug a little bit for the help desk and the resource portal as well. So I'll pass on to Monica to kind of close and just share final details for that. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you, everyone, for participating, for talking about what you're doing in your companies with regards to e-waste, and just what your experience has been so far. And I think that last call is particularly encouraging, that there are things that we can all do in just getting the e-waste conversation started in our organizations. And so we have, as the help desk, we have the what we're calling the resource portal, where we are housing all sorts of resources for organizations. So around both e-waste and ESMS. And so here you will find you'll find specific resources for both topics. You will also find recordings of all the webinars that have happened so far, and this webinar as well will be uploaded soon. We also have a calendar where you will be able to see other upcoming workshops in the coming weeks, and which you can pencil in into your calendars. And so right now we encourage you to visit this resource portal. The link, I think Dennis, yeah, the link, Dennis had posted the link earlier in the chat, and we can post it again now. So feel free to visit this resource portal, engage with it, reach out to us if you have any questions on any of the resources that you find there. Yeah, we are very happy to engage with you directly, have a one-on-one chat with you, understand where you're at as an organization. Jennifer talked about batteries as well as Kezia, so feel free to reach out to us, and we can begin to think about how e-waste would look like for those specific components. Yeah, I don't think I have much more to say. To thank you again for joining, to encourage you again to reach out to us on the help desk, to engage with the resource portal, and I guess to hand it over back to Dennis.
Okay, thank you, Monica. So I've just posted a link to register for the next workshop, which will be on the 15th of September. So in that workshop, we will introduce attendees to the concept of stakeholder management, mapping, identification, and engagement. And our facilitator for that workshop will be John Amboya, who is also on the call. I know he hasn't spoken, so John, if you can hear me, I'll give you an opportunity to do some closing remarks, maybe just react to the presentation, or to talk about what participants can expect in that workshop, the next workshop. John,
so
if you can. Okay.
Thank you, Dennis, for the opportunity, and Rebecca for that great presentation on e-waste. And as Dennis has said, my name is Ambuya John, an ESMS specialist with the help desk. So as Dennis has indicated, the next training will be focusing on stakeholder engagement and aspects about grievance redress mechanisms in the different operations that the different borrowers of EARF are undertaking. And from Rebecca's presentation today, I've been able to get some aspects about stakeholder engagement, the issue about handling grievances, how to offer customer service, how you need to communicate to customers, which channels, So I think in the next workshop, we'll be going into detail on those aspects, how you identify the stakeholders, how you prioritize them, how do you communicate with each and each category of stakeholders, and the frequency of communication, and so on. Yeah,
Thank
so
you,
I think
John.
that is okay.
All right. Okay, thank you. So at this point, I would like to bring the workshop to a close. But before I do, I've posted my email address in the comment section. We do generate certificates of attendance to all the participants who make time for our workshops. So I request that you send your name that is the first name and last name and your affiliation as you'd like them to appear on that certificate, just to document that you are present for this engagement. So that's all from me. Once again, thank you for making time, and we look forward to hosting you for the workshop that we'll be having on September 15th. Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you.